Rich Dad Poor Dad Summary. Part 1. Hello and welcome to this summary of Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book is one of the most popular personal finance books ever written, and it has helped millions of people around the world rethink the way they see money. The story is built around two father figures in Robert's life. His real father, who he calls his poor dad, was a well-educated man with a stable job, but he struggled financially all his life. On the other side, his friend's father, his rich dad, was a businessman and investor who didn't have a college degree but understood how money really worked. Through their lessons, Kiyosaki learned two very different mindsets about money. One kept people trapped in the rat race, while the other created financial freedom. In this summary, we're going to walk through the most important lessons that Rich Dad taught him, and how you can apply them to your own life. Lesson 1: The rich don't work for money. One of the first lessons Rich Dad taught Robert was that the rich don't work for money. Poor Dad always said, go to school, get good grades, and find a secure job. His belief was that money comes from a steady paycheck. But Rich Dad challenged this idea. He explained that if you only work for money, you'll never escape the cycle of needing more and more. The poor and middle class often work hard for a paycheck, but they also spend more as they earn more. They buy a bigger house, a nicer car, or new gadgets. This keeps them trapped in what Robert calls the rat race. The rich, on the other hand, learn to make money work for them. Instead of only working for a salary, they look for ways to build investments and businesses that generate income even when they're not working. The lesson here is simple: don't just think about earning money, think about creating systems that make money for you. Lesson 2: Why financial education matters. School teaches us math, science, history, and literature. But what it doesn't teach is how money works. That's why so many people, even doctors or lawyers with high incomes, still struggle financially. Rich Dad believed that financial education was the most important education of all. Understanding concepts like assets, liabilities, cash flow, and investing can make the difference between lifelong struggle and financial freedom. For example, if you understand how taxes work, you can keep more of your money. If you understand how debt works, you can use it as a tool instead of a burden. If you know how to evaluate investments, you can grow wealth instead of relying only on a paycheck. The key point here is this: money without financial intelligence is money soon gone. You don't need to be a genius or a math expert, but you do need to understand the basics of money and investing. Part 2, Lessons 3, 4 and 5. Lesson 3: Assets versus Liabilities. One of the most powerful lessons in the book is the difference between assets and liabilities. Poor Dad thought that buying a bigger house or a nicer car was a sign of wealth. But Rich Dad explained that these are often liabilities, not assets. So what's the difference? Assets are things that put money in your pocket. Examples include rental properties, stocks that pay dividends, businesses, or intellectual property like books or music rights. Liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. Your mortgage, car payments, and credit card debt are liabilities. Even if you own a big house, if it costs you money every month instead of paying you, it's a liability. Most people confuse liabilities with assets. They think their house is an asset, but if it's draining their money each month, it's not helping them build wealth. The rich focus on buying real assets that generate income, while the poor and middle class often pile up liabilities thinking they are getting richer. The big takeaway: if you want to be rich, spend your money on assets, not liabilities. Lesson 4: Work to learn, not just to earn. Another critical lesson from Rich Dad was this: don't just work for money, work to learn. Many people get stuck in careers they don't love because they're chasing a paycheck. But the rich focus on building skills. For example, Robert Kiyosaki once worked for free for his rich dad, not because he wanted money, but because he wanted to learn about running a business. He also took jobs in sales and marketing, not because they paid well, but because he wanted to learn how to sell and communicate. The more skills you have, the more valuable you become. You may not stay in one job forever, but the skills you learn, like leadership, investing, or negotiating, will stay with you for life. So ask yourself, am I working just for a paycheck, or am I working to gain knowledge and skills that can build my future? Lesson 5, The Rat Race and Escaping It. The rat race is when you wake up, go to work, pay bills, and repeat the cycle endlessly. When you get a raise, you spend more, so you need to keep working even harder. You never really get ahead. Poor Dad lived his whole life in the rat race. He had a good job and income, but also high expenses. Rich Dad taught that the only way to escape the rat race is to change your mindset. Instead of thinking, I need a higher salary, think, I need more assets. When your assets generate enough income to cover your expenses, you achieve financial freedom. That means you no longer need to work for money, the money works for you. Part 3, Lesson 6, 7 plus Practical Steps plus Closing. Lesson 6, Overcoming Fear and Taking Risks. One reason many people stay poor is fear. Fear of losing money, fear of failing, fear of looking stupid. Poor Dad was very cautious and believed in job security. Rich Dad, however, saw failure as part of learning. He told Robert, winners are not afraid of losing. But losers are. The truth is, everyone loses at some point. The difference is that the rich learn from their failures and keep going, while the poor let fear hold them back. If you want to build wealth, you have to take risks. That doesn't mean gambling recklessly, it means educating yourself, starting small, and learning by doing. You will make mistakes, but each mistake is a step toward success. Lesson 7, Making Money Work for You. Finally, the most important lesson, don't work for money, make money work for you. This means building income streams that don't rely on your direct effort. For example, buying real estate that pays you rent. Investing in stocks or businesses that produce dividends or profits. Creating products, books, or online businesses that generate passive income. The goal is to reach a point where your passive income is greater than your expenses. At that moment, you no longer need a paycheck, you are financially free. Part 1, Introduction plus Lessons 1 and 2. Hello and welcome to this expanded summary of Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. This book has been called one of the most influential personal finance books ever written. It has sold millions of copies worldwide and has inspired people of all ages to look at money in a new way. But here's what makes it different, it doesn't just talk about saving or budgeting, it challenges the very mindset we have about money. Robert tells the story of growing up with two father figures. His biological father, his poor dad, was highly educated, he had a PhD and worked as a teacher and government employee. He believed in the traditional path, study hard, get a good job, and climb the ladder. But despite his degrees and secure career, he struggled financially. Then there was his rich dad, the father of his best friend. Rich Dad didn't finish college, but he became a successful businessman and investor. He taught Robert lessons about money that schools never did. And those lessons shaped the way Robert built his wealth later in life. This book isn't just about two men, it's about two mindsets. The poor dad mindset, which most of us are taught, and the rich dad mindset, which very few people ever learn. Let's dive into the first big lesson. Lesson 1, The Rich Don't Work for Money. Poor Dad always said, study hard so you can get a good job with a secure paycheck. That's what most parents tell their kids. It sounds safe. It sounds smart. But Rich Dad said something completely different, the poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. What does that mean? Most people spend their lives working for a paycheck. They put in hours, they get paid, and then they spend the money on bills and lifestyle. When they want more, they work harder. But no matter how hard they work, they're stuck in the same cycle, the rat race. Rich Dad explained that the truly wealthy don't just rely on salaries. Instead, they build systems that generate income for them whether they're working or not. Think of it this way: if you stop working today, does money still come in? If not, you're working for money. If yes, then money is working for you. An example: a teacher with a steady paycheck might stop earning if she quits her job. But someone who owns rental properties keeps collecting rent even while on vacation. That's the difference. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Ask yourself, are you only trading your time for money, or are you creating something that earns while you sleep? Lesson 2: Why Financial Education Matters. This leads us to the second big lesson: financial education. Schools teach us how to solve equations, memorize history, or write essays. But they rarely teach us about money, how to manage it, how to grow it, and how to protect it. That's why so many people, even with high incomes, still struggle with debt, taxes, and poor financial decisions. Poor Dad believed in academic education. He thought good grades would equal success. Rich Dad believed in financial education. He said you could have a degree and still be broke if you didn't understand money. Rich Dad taught Robert the basics of money early on. The difference between assets and liabilities. The importance of cash flow. How taxes affect your income. Why debt can be either dangerous or powerful. For example, imagine two people earning the same salary. One understands taxes and uses legal strategies to reduce them. The other doesn't and pays more in taxes. Over time, the difference compounds into thousands, even millions, of dollars. Financial education doesn't mean you need to be a math genius. It means understanding the rules of money, because money is like a game. If you don't know the rules, you'll lose to those who do. Think of it like this: you wouldn't play soccer without knowing what counts as a goal. So why play the game of money without knowing what counts as winning? Part 2, Lessons 3, 4 and 5. Lesson 3, Assets versus Liabilities. This is probably the most famous idea from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad said, the rich buy assets. The poor and middle class buy liabilities, thinking they are assets. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Assets, rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, a business, royalties from a book or song. Liabilities, your car loan, your credit card debt, even your house if it costs you more than it makes. Most people think their home is their biggest asset. But if every month it's costing you money in mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, then it's not putting money in your pocket, it's taking it out. The rich focus on building asset columns. They buy things that produce income. The poor and middle class often buy liabilities, new cars, bigger houses, fancy gadgets, that drain money. Here's a practical example: someone who buys a $50,000 car on loan is stuck with monthly payments and depreciation. Someone else invests that same $50,000 into a small rental property. Every month, the car owner pays money, while the property owner collects money. Over time, one grows poorer, the other grows wealthier. That's the power of knowing the difference between assets and liabilities. Lesson 4, Work to learn, not just to earn. Poor Dad valued job security. He believed in climbing the ladder. Rich Dad said, don't work for money. Work to learn. Robert took this lesson to heart. Instead of only looking for the highest paying job, he looked for opportunities to learn new skills. He worked in sales to learn how to sell. He worked in marketing to understand persuasion. He learned about accounting to read financial statements. Why? Because every skill adds to your financial intelligence. Salaries may come and go, but skills stay with you forever. Think about it: if you can sell, you'll never go hungry. If you understand investments, you'll always see opportunities others miss. If you know how to manage people, you can build businesses. This is why the rich focus on self-education. They read books, attend seminars, learn from mentors. The more they learn, the more options they have. So ask yourself, am I only working for a paycheck, or am I working to build skills that will create freedom later? Lesson 5, The Rat Race and Escaping It. The rat race is a trap. You work hard, you get a raise, you spend more, and then you're stuck needing that paycheck forever. Poor Dad was stuck in the rat race his whole life. Rich Dad taught Robert to step back and see the bigger picture. The way out is simple in theory, but not always easy in practice. Build assets until your passive income covers your expenses. Imagine your expenses are $3,000 a month. If your assets, rental income, dividends, business profits, bring in $3,000 a month, you no longer need your job. That's financial freedom. It doesn't mean you'll stop working. It means you'll have the choice to work on what you want, not what you must. Part 3, Lesson 6, 7 plus Practical Steps plus Closing. Lesson 6, Overcoming Fear and Taking Risks. Why don't more people become wealthy? Fear. Fear of losing money. Fear of failure. Fear of what others will say. Poor Dad was cautious. He believed in security, in avoiding risks. Rich Dad believed that failure was the best teacher. He told Robert, winners are not afraid of losing. Losers are. Failure is part of success. Every successful investor, every entrepreneur, has lost money at some point. But instead of quitting, they learn from mistakes and keep moving forward. Rich Dad said the real risk is playing it safe. If you never take risks, you never grow. If you only depend on a paycheck, you're at the mercy of your boss or the economy. The lesson, educate yourself, start small, and learn as you go. Don't let fear stop you from moving forward. Lesson 7, Making Money Work for You. The final key lesson is to stop working for money and start making money work for you. This means building multiple streams of income that don't rely on your time. Real estate that pays rent. Stocks that pay dividends. A side business that runs without you. Royalties from a book, app, or product. The rich don't rely on one source of income. They build many. That way, if one slows down, others keep flowing. When your passive income is greater than your expenses, you are free. Free to choose how to spend your time, free to live life on your terms. Practical steps to apply. So, what can you do today? 1. Track your money. Know exactly where it goes. 2. Cut liabilities. Delay the fancy car or gadgets, focus on assets first. 3. Buy assets. Start with small investments, index funds, a side hustle, or real estate. 4. Invest in yourself. Read financial books, take courses, find mentors. 5. Think long-term. Wealth is built step by step, not overnight. Closing. To wrap up, Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't just a book about money, it's a book about mindset. Poor Dad's path leads to security but struggle. Rich Dad's path leads to freedom and wealth. The key takeaway is simple, don't just work for money. Make money work for you. If you start applying even a few of these lessons. Building assets, focusing on financial education, overcoming fear, you'll put yourself on the path to financial freedom. Thank you for listening to this expanded summary of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I hope it inspires you to take action today and create the future you deserve.